This is the Creative Market Free Goods Roundup for the week of June 29th, 2015. There are 6 different free goods this week, but they are free this week only. So if when you watch this video, you see something you might want to use, just check out the description of this video where I'll place links to each one of these 6 different free items. So first up is Dreamer, which is a premium WordPress theme. This is a theme for WordPress, so if you're a fan of the WordPress content management system, then this is definitely a blog template worth checking out because it's very simply laid out, but it has a very bold, very clean style to it that I actually really enjoy. So I'm going to zoom down to the bottom here so you can kind of see how these different posts are laid out. Overall, it's pretty simplistic with the images being a big focus, but as you can tell, there is also, plenty of room right here to put type. And at the bottom of each post, there's different tags if you want to go ahead and tag everything. There's an Instagram bar off to the side to show off all your Instagram images, and below that there's a search bar. And at the top here, there's an About Me section with a nice big picture, as well as room for a short biography and then different social icons for people to check you out on. To go to the post, you just click on the post title right here, which brings you to that post's individual page. So once again, it's the same content roughly, but this time there's plenty of room for more type if you want to do that. And then there's a handful of different built-in share icons, as well as the very well-known WordPress comment section below that. As you can see right here, there's a room for people to leave a reply. If I zoom back up to the top here, we can check out some of the different options. There's an archive section where people can easily go through your different archived posts. There's a full width page option, which is just a different way of laying stuff out. So this is the one with a left sidebar, and then one with no sidebar if you want text or large photos to be the dominating thing. Under shortcodes, if you click that, it'll bring you to all the different shortcodes available in this WordPress theme. There's quite a bit of stuff here from different buttons and different style options, so be sure to check all these out when you're customizing this template if you want to see what is available to you. There seems to be quite a bit of stuff here, including a ton of different social icons, all of which are very cleanly laid out as far as what code to go ahead and use right up the top here. And then if I go back up to the top of the page here under shortcodes, if I click on slider, it'll show off this sliding image bar right here that is actually very nice if you want to put this on your front page or even on a particular post page. If you want to show off multiple images in a relatively small amount of space, this is a great way to do that. Last up here is the contact section with your name, email, subject, and message. Pretty straightforward there. I do like that when you actually click on these fields, it changes from the gray to the white. That's kind of like a nice little simple detail that draws me in just a little bit as I go ahead and click through these. But a nice simple and bold WordPress blogging template. I actually really do like this one. I just think overall it's a very well designed theme. So if you like this theme and you think you'll have use for it, just be sure to pick it up this week. Next up is a set of 6 seamless flower patterns. This is a set of 6 repeating flower patterns available in both EPS as well as JPEG file formats. So I have the EPS files opened up inside Adobe Illustrator here to show it. And I went ahead and just repeated this one so you can see that these do seamlessly repeat very well. This black line right here is just the artboard on Illustrator kind of showing itself. But I actually really enjoy this set of flower repeats because right now flowers are very popular, especially if you check out the front page of Creative Market. There's a lot of typography using flowers over them. That just seems to be a really great way to grab people's attention right now. And as you can tell, there is a pretty nice selection of different flowers here to pick from, as well as each of these flower elements sometimes has stuff in the background. Like in the background here, there's some type overlaid. And if you want to use just the flowers, you could always just ungroup this and then go ahead and pull each flower off to the side by itself, where you can make custom arrangements if that's something you want to do. I could bring this one to the front right here to kind of change how this looks a little bit. This is actually a pretty cool repeat because it has such vibrant colors and so much going on. So here's the last 3 repeats with a very tropical vibe going on, a really great color palette as well. But it's also worth noting that there are some bonuses included in this pack that are actually maybe one of the best parts of this pack. So checking this one out right here, you can tell that it lays out different greeting cards as well as a save the date almost business card. Little handouts if you're doing something like a wedding or a party or a specific event. If you're looking for a very nice and clean layout to go ahead and use, this is something you can certainly go ahead and do that with. The only thing you can't do is customize the type easily because it is outlined, but you could of course just ungroup this and then delete this type if you wanted to and overlay your own custom type, or if you want to go the extra mile, you could hand write your own type on top of it. So here's the second of the bonuses that I'm showing off. A very nice layout right here, in this case for a wedding celebration, but I could see this being used for a ton of different stuff if you want to go ahead and do that. So definitely check out the bonuses that are included in this download. I think they're, at least in my opinion, the best part of this download. And I'm just showing off a couple of the different bonuses that are included. This isn't everything, so be sure to check everything out and see if you'll have use for any of that stuff. Just remember that with the type, it is outlined, so you'll have to go ahead and redesign this as you see fit. There's a ton of great fonts on Creative Market, or if you're looking for free stuff, I'd recommend checking out fontsquirrel.com. There's a lot of nice free fonts there as well. But that's it for this pack. If you like what you've seen thus far, I'd really recommend you pick this pack up today and check out everything that's inside. Next up is Vector Grunge textures. This pack includes 24 textures in total in both EPS as well as transparent background PNGs. So I have the EPS file opened up inside Illustrator here to show it. And I just opened 2 of these different EPS files. Each of the EPS files has 4 different textures on it, where each of the PNGs is its own separate texture file. But I think this is going to be enough to kind of give you a pretty good idea of what to expect across all 24 of these textures. So I'll zoom in a little bit closer to these textures so you can get a better idea of how these look up close. I actually think these all look pretty good. I think the separation of texture and the amount of white space around it is also very nice, because sometimes textures will become a little bit too overpowering when you put it over type or a silhouette, but you actually want to be able to still see what's underneath of it without having it be completely destroyed by the texture. So I think at least on this page, these do a pretty nice job of juggling that balance between the amount of texture that is applied and the amount of object that you'll still see through. If I zoom in really close to these individual texture objects, you can kind of tell how these look up close. They're very polygonal in their appearance, so I'd assume that these are probably brought into Illustrator and run through a live trace or some other automatic vectoring program like that in order to generate these. But as you zoom out a little bit further, I think the end result looks pretty good, and that's really all that matters here. So here's the second page, and I'll just zoom in a little bit closer so you can get a better idea of how these look up close as well. I think this one in particular is pretty cool because there's a lot going on, especially in this center section right here. So I think if this was overlaid on some type in particular, it might look really cool, or even a simple silhouetted image. And a lot of times when I'm adding texture to either type or a silhouette, I like to throw a border around it, so it becomes even that much more apparent what the original object was before the texture started kind of knocking it out. So that's just one suggestion for you to go ahead and try if you want to do that, to add a thin stroke or border around whatever you apply these textures to after you do it. It might just give it kind of a little bit different and a bit more unique look to it once you're done. But that's it for these textures. Remember, there are 24 in total, not just the 8 that I've shown right here. From what I can tell, there's a pretty nice diversity of textures to pick from here, so go in there and check everything out and see if something might be useful for you. And if you check out all the previews and you like what you see, just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. Next up is 1,000,000 Catchwords. This font is provided in OpenType font format, and as you can see right here, it has kind of a neat feature, and that feature is that all the letters appear to have a banner behind them. So I'm going to start with the letters up top here, and then I'll show you a little bit of a special feature as you can see right here in just a second. The font itself is a fairly simple sans serif font with a very comic look to it, and as you can tell, it automatically generates this banner to the both left and then the right side of this, depending on how long the word is. It does all this automatically for you. And here are the bottom set of letters right here, so you can see what those look like as well. So right here I typed up the A in both lowercase as well as uppercase, and then the B starting with the uppercase and then the lowercase. So if I type cat, for example, with uppercase C and then lowercase a and lowercase t, you can tell that the uppercase version will put the banner up to the top here, and the lowercase version will start with the banner on the bottom. And it doesn't matter how you tend to type this, it'll always work that way. So if I type up cat with the lowercase letter first, and then another lowercase followed by the uppercase, you can see that the lowercase letter still maintains the banner at the bottom, and the uppercase letter has the banner little ribbon right here up at the top. I'll scroll down to the numbers here, so you can see that the numbers 1 through 0 are all included, and a small handful of special characters are included as well, as shown right here. If you go to type and then glyphs and check that box, you can see all the different glyphs that are included here. It's a little bit hard to see on this video because these glyphs all have that banner behind them, which makes it a little bit harder to distinguish what these are, but it does appear that there are quite a few different glyphs to go in here and check out, so certainly go in there and do that if you're looking for something special. And I went ahead and typed up free goods roundup right here into a sentence, so you can see how this looks typed up into a sentence. As you can tell, each word will put itself into a ribbon, so if you don't want that to happen, you could just remove the space. So if you want to put your own space in there, you might want to just select this and then create outlines, and then use the white arrow tool, which is A on your keyboard as a shortcut. It's called the direct selection tool, and just kind of highlight between these two letters right here, and then manually pull this out while holding shift, so you can make that space as big or as small as you want, or you could even just draw a box behind it, whatever works best for you. But a very simple font, but it has a kind of cool bonus right here with that banner built into it. And you could, of course, like let's say I want to take this word cat, and I'll just make this a little bit longer. Catamole, I don't know if that's a real word or not. But if I want to apply an effect to this, I go to Effect, and then go to Warp, and then Arc. And as you can see right here, it very quickly applies a pretty cool effect to this type that works very well with this included banner. But that's it for this font. If you like what you've seen thus far, just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. Next up is My Resume version 1. These resumes come in a ton of different files, including Word, InDesign, as well as Photoshop. And I should also note, included with this download is an extremely in-depth instruction set. So if you have any questions along the way, be sure to check that out. It'll list all the fonts that are used here and give you a ton of different explanations of how to do stuff if you have any further questions. And also, if I open up Illustrator here, you can tell that they include these free social icons. So if you want to show off your social networks across a variety of these different platforms, these icons are here to use. So even if you don't want to use the resume and cover letter templates, you could just use these social icons if that's something you want to do. And I should also note these resumes are included in both A4 as well as US letter formats. So whether you're in the US or somewhere else, these should probably cover you. And I have them opened up inside Photoshop here to show them just because I don't have to download all the fonts for the fonts to appear correctly. But I really recommend using InDesign if you have it to lay these out, as it's just a little bit more of an efficient way to work. But there's 5 different types of resumes as well as cover letters. So this is a cover letter right here, and then this is the resume. But they're all the same overall layout if you check like this version to this version. The only things changing are the actual colors. So really there's one layout for the cover letter and one layout for the resume with a handful of different colors to kind of pick depending on what you want to do. So I'm not going to show all the different colors here, but you can feel free to go in and check all those out if you choose to download this. But something really important to note here is that they very cleanly laid out all the different sections right here in the layers. So the header, for example, is on its own layer. There's a section where you can add a photo right here. So there's not a photo added in yet, but it seems to have a gradient map over it to give it a cool effect. And if you want to add that photo, just double click on this smart object right here, which will bring you to the overall layout of the photo. And then once you're done adding your photo in there, save it and close it, and it should automatically be applied right up here in the top. And then the cover letter section right here is nicely laid out. If you open up this folder, there's the 2 different sections to type. So overall, this is just a great example of how you should be laying out your Photoshop folders because it's very easy to go in there and follow along with. But I think these layouts overall are pretty nice and clean, pretty easy to read. And if I zoom in a little bit closer here, you can kind of tell what the sections are. So who I am, where I've worked, what I've studied, what I'm good at. You could rename all these different headings as you see fit. I tend to be a bit more formal on my own resume, so I might write about me or experience or education, but it's really up to you how you want to go ahead and show off what you've done before. But as you can see right here, it is very nicely laid out, very clean design with a nice focus on hierarchy, which is really important when working with a resume. People just want to very quickly ascertain the information they're looking for and then move along. If it's too hard for someone to figure out what they're looking for when they're looking at your resume, they'll probably just go along to the next person because they don't want to waste their time trying to find out the information they're looking for. But the cover letter is the same thing, very nicely laid out. I actually think the layout of the cover letter is my personal favorite part of this. It's just very clean, very simple, and it's nicely organized. But overall, a nice pack of resume and cover letter templates. Remember, they're all the same, except they have different colors throughout them. And of course, if you wanted to, you could go into one of these folders like background, for example. In the top bar right here is a shape file. So if I were to double click onto this, I could change this color to be something else if I want to do that. If I can make it black right here. So if you want to change these, just go to the background folder and then double click on the actual layer picture, which will bring up this color picker for you to go ahead and change this to be whatever color it is you want it to be. But a cool pack in my book. So if you've been looking for a resume and cover letter template, this might be a useful one for you to pick up. Just be sure to do it this week while it's still free. And last up is CrackerJack, which is a font. This font is provided in both OpenType as well as TrueType font formats, and I have it opened up inside Adobe Illustrator here to show it. So as you can see right here, this font is all capitals, and I'll just zoom in on the letters right here so you can get a better idea of how these look. As you can tell, the font has a very comic, hand-drawn, inspired style to it. And if I zoom in really close in the letters right here, you can kind of get a better idea of how the letters look individually. Some of them have some kind of jaggy edges, like on this little H right here, but I think it kind of helps a little bit add to that handmade aesthetic that the font is going after. And here is the second set of letters right here. I'll just quickly scroll through all of these. And below that, you can tell that they do include all the numbers 1 through 0, as well as a small handful of different special characters right here, as well as a registered and copyright sign that look a little bit different than any other registered or copyright signs I've seen previously. As you can tell, the @ symbol right here isn't the same thing as the copyright symbol, although they look pretty similar in practice. If I highlight over this and then go to type and then glyphs near the top here, you can tell this font doesn't have a ton of special characters included, but it does have at least the basics to go in here and probably write whatever it is you have to write. Since this is a headline font and probably going to be pretty minimal use on the special characters you need, that should be plenty good for most people at least. And I went ahead and typed up free goods roundup into a sentence just so you can see how this looks actually typed up into a sentence. As you can tell, the stock kerning is very tight, but I actually think that looks pretty good on this particular hand-drawn looking font. I don't have any issues with it. I might tighten up some stuff just a little bit, like if you look at this R to the O on the word roundup, I might shrink that up just to match the other letters a little bit better, but overall this is a pretty solid font. But that's it for this font. What you see right here is what you get. So if you're looking for a fairly fun, hand-drawn, comic-styled font, then this one might be super useful for you. Just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. So that's it for this week's free goods, and do remember they are free this week only, so be sure to check out the description if you want to download anything. You'll find all the links for the products there, and as always, if you found this video helpful, please like and favorite, and if you want to see this video every week, please subscribe. This video is released every Monday to let you know it's free this week on Creative Market. Thank you for watching.